Tariq. Tariq's going to be talking about, I don't know what he's going to talk about, but he's going to talk about bit stuff.
At least thank you. At least Phil finally admitted that he didn't know what I was going to talk about. Because I purposely put this very ambiguous title. I even posted on social media. It's amazing. Like, once people know you as like someone who speaks well, I don't know if I speak on good topics, but speaks well, they'll like whatever you post, They have no clue what this is. And then Phil obviously got the slides. And Phil looked through the slides, and Phil still didn't know what it was about, right? So my name is Tariq King, and I won't talk about what I do right now because there were some moments in some of the other presentations, like, the startup and that visual there going up. Thank you for that. I just created my own startup, so that was kind of one of those things. And then I left a large enterprise company to do so. So, there were some moments in there like, oh, are they talking about me? Is it me? Like, no. But we're going to talk about bits, right? And just a little bit. It's not going to be long, I promise. I know that there's a lot going on. But we're going to talk about what bits are and if they're important. And last but not least, I'll give you a bit of an example about bits, right? So tell me, what do you think about when you hear bits? Well, most of the people in this room are thinking, hey, okay, I know what you're talking about. Binary digits, like we know that. Hopefully I'm not the least significant bit in your world today, but we know what those are. We've all done that, been there, done that. Some of us live that, right? But those are just on-off switches, right? 0 or 1, right? And I remember when I bought my first home, these bits were a big thing. No one tells you that after you spend all of your money to purchase a home, that then you have no money and you can't hire anyone to do anything. So now you have to be that person, right? YouTube. And so drill bits was a big thing. I remember trying to drill into a concrete wall with the wrong bit. It was not fun. But we're not going to talk about those bits either. That'll be a little bit too much. For some of you, this is the bit that you have in your life, right? It's all about getting fit and not having the wrong, thing going on, but not that either. So, this is one of the most embarrassing things that happened to me recently. So I sent Phil, he asked me for a description for this 10-minute talk, and I've never written a description for a 10-minute talk. It's 10 minutes. Like, by the time you write the description, the talk is done, right? And then he's like, oh, I know what you're talking about, this whole bit thing, because that was the only thing you could tell from it. He's like, oh, blacks in technology. I'm like, I didn't know if that was like a racial thing going on there or not. I couldn't figure it out, but I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about, which I was very, very ashamed of that. And then I looked up blacks in technology. Surely enough, it's a big thing, which is great. And then I see my friend, Stacy Kirk, did an article and did a talk. I'm like, oh man, I just really need to get up and get out more, right? But we're not talking about bits there either. So what are we talking about? So I spent all this time talking about what we're not talking about. So we're very clear about that. But what are we actually talking about? The first thing is that bits, the first clue I'll give you is that bits are biologically inspired, right? And there's this whole area of computing called bio-inspired computing, because you know what? Like it or not, what has been made here on Earth is remarkable. The human body, the animals, just everything to do with nature, right? We don't spend enough time probably outside in nature appreciating it, but it's amazing. And actually there's whole branches of technology that follow. And so computing has been following nature all around. You talk about genetic algorithms, emergence, neural networks. It's all biologically inspired. How do we look at the different models in biology and in nature and learn from them? And actually find computational models that are interesting and powerful that can do things that we never thought. And we're seeing that more and more today. So that's why Phil automatically thought, oh, it's Tariq, he's going to talk about AI. It has to be an AI talk. And then so I'm like, oh, a bit about AI in the future. I'm like, it's not about AI. It's about bits, right? And we're going to get there. So, all right. So biologically inspired. We got that so far? Obviously, we're here talking about quality and PNSQC and software testing. So the other clue is that BITS is about testing. It's about software testing. And we heard a lot of different opinions, even in this short period of time, about this thing that we spend our lives doing. And that I always question, why did I choose this path, right? Because testing is hard. Testing is very hard. But testing also allows us to exercise our creativity. It allows us to exercise methodologies. It allows us to kind of drill into things and think outside of the box, which is a skill that is invaluable, right? But there's a lot of tough problems that we haven't solved, right? The input problem, the output problem, the oracle problem, the state space explosion. It just continues to go and go and go, and there seems to be no hope, right? And that's kind of sometimes we feel a little defeated. We feel like we're rowing uphill in that boat, right? Or we feel like the security guy that says, hey, there's no hope here. We're going to learn the hard way. Well, we learn quality the hard way too. It seems like, it's just going uphill and it's a battle. But last and not least, BITS is about solutions and solutions to those hard problems, right? Those hard testing problems. Because I firmly believe that we can start to think about different ways of doing things as we move forward, right? In other words, we have these ideas and these crazy thoughts, right? And we have them all the time. And how do you take that and move from there into some new tool, some new method, and some new process, right? It's not all about the tools, right? We heard a lot about communication today. Like the process and how we go about doing things is just as important as any tool we could use. And then how do we take whatever that is, that new thing that has been created, and actually deliver it to make a change or make something different, make testing better, right? Make it easier. And so BITS is about biologically inspired testing solutions. And there's a lot that I think we can learn here. And right now there's a lot of stuff going on in our space, thankfully, that does talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning and all this stuff. And it begs the question, well, is this whole biologically inspired testing solution thing important? Well, yes, important. There's a lot of people trying to do the AI thing. But I can tell you that BITS is more than AI and machine learning, right? Because AI and machine learning are very restricted and constrained to a particular field. While when I talk about biologically inspired anything, it is a lot more open than BITS. And so for me, BITS is a lot bigger than trying to get robots to click on the user interface of an application, which is what most of those vendors are doing. So I'll just leave you with one example to give you an idea of what I mean by BITS being bigger than, these robots taking over, right? And so consider the human body, quite a miraculous thing. And, the basic unit of the human body is the cell. And what does a cell do? A cell continuously works to keep you in equilibrium, right? In homeostasis. And one of the cool things about cells is that they're very dynamic, right? They continue to monitor and adjust and adapt as it sees fit. And it also has this wonderful property that it can heal or replicate to actually replace cells in your body that have been either permanently damaged or destroyed. And so one crazy thought that I had probably over 10 years ago was that this whole idea of the cells being able to adjust and adapt and monitor, well, I can apply that to computing. And I can not only apply that to computing, I can apply that specifically to testing, because other people were looking at other areas of computing, but no one was looking at testing, right? So we have our basic units being components in the system, and the components can continuously work to keep system in some state that is desired. And you can define some policy, right? That's your homeostasis, is that what the user wants defines that behavior that you want the system to continue pushing through and throughout as it functions. And each component is dynamic, continuously monitors and adjusts, right? And last but not least, the components can adapt or replicate themselves to replace damaged or defective components. In other words, we can build components in a system that are able to test themselves. And not only test themselves, they can adjust and adapt to the system as it goes. Now that sounds like a real big task at hand. But that was the topic that I chose for my PhD thesis over 10 years ago. And if I think about the state of technology then, and if I could do something so bold back then right now where we have a lot more technology, a lot more advances, there's gotta be bigger and better ideas out there. And so my challenge is to call for a bit of help on biologically inspired testing solutions and different ideas. Like, I hope that before the conference that you guys can help me fill this table with ideas, because there's a lot of technologies out there and a lot of proof of concepts applied to different areas, but we can leverage them for software testing. So that's my bit about bits, and that's the end of it. Thank you.